Tonight, a Hannity history lesson about your media. You're going to want to record this and show your friends. We'll cover all of this in tonight's Breaking News opening monologue. We start tonight with a massive, stunning development that should have Hillary Clinton very worried tonight. The Daily Beast reporting the Department of Justice has, in fact, reopened the investigation into Clinton's server scandal. Now, according to that report, investigators are now gathering information about how Clinton and her top aides handled classified information, including questions about how much classified information passed through her unsecure server, who put the information onto the server, which investigators knew about all this, and when did they know about this? Also breaking tonight, John Solomon, who will join us from the Hill, reporting that the FBI has also opened a brand new investigation as it relates to the Clinton Foundation, and they are trying to determine whether or not any pay-for-play occurred while Hillary Clinton was serving as Secretary of State. We have been saying, and I've been saying on this program, 2018 will be the year that all of these scandals boomerang back on the left, the media, the Democratic Party, and tonight it's all beginning to unfold. Now, for example, take tonight's new information about the Clinton server scandal and couple that with the DOJ now looking into the Uranium One scandal. And we're also learning that the DOJ will give House investigators access to all of the documents and all of the witnesses in the Russia investigation and the dossier investigation. Now, all this means, all this information about the Clinton bought and paid for Russian propaganda, that fake news salacious dossier, the Russian dossier, will finally now see the light of day. You got to buckle up. It's going to get very interesting. Now, also tonight, we'll get back to that in a minute. Look, if you don't work or live inside the mainstream media and their giant, well, incestuous, almost like bubble, well, then you might have seen that the economy under President Trump is on an absolute tear. This is good news for forgotten men and women in this country. Take a look at these numbers. Dow Jones now soared today to over 25,000, its highest number ever. The job market continues to boom. ADP reporting today 250,000 new jobs created in December alone, which is the most in 9 months for that survey. And take a look at this headline. Job cut announcements in 2017 see the lowest level since 1990, Challenger report says. And here's another headline. Manufacturing in the U.S. just accelerated to its best year since 2004. And earlier today, the president is moving to now open up offshore drilling. That's right, off the coast, both coasts, and in the Gulf, which is vital to America becoming energy independent, the lifeblood of our economy. And that's just only some of the good news from this week alone. Unemployment, a 17-year low, 4.1%. Under President Trump, before the 250,000 jobs, 1.7 million jobs were created. That's now 2 million jobs. African-American unemployment in America is now at a 17-year low. Food stamp use is at a 7-year low. 2 million fewer people using food stamps now under President Trump in 1 year. Home prices are up 6%. The Trump administration has now taken a chainsaw to burdensome regulation from our government. And for every new one they created, in terms of regulation, 16 have been slashed and cut away. There's GDP so far. We have seen 2 quarters of over 3% growth. And remember, Barack Obama, the only president in the history of this country to never reach 3% GDP growth for an entire year. Now, here's what the media will never tell you. Well, there's a night and day difference between the economy just a year ago and now under Donald Trump for 1 year. And under Obama's economy, I'll remind you, it was god-awful. Lowest labor participation rate since the 70s. 95 million Americans out of the labor force. The worst economic recovery since the 40s. The lowest home ownership rate in 51 years. 13 million more Americans on food stamps. 8 million more in poverty. 43 million total living in poverty under Obama in just 1 year. The economy is now turning around, and that's before the $1.5 trillion historic tax cut even had a chance to take effect. All good news for us. And liberals, the media, they said, oh, the tax cuts are going to be terrible for the economy. It's only going to benefit corporations. By the way, corporations don't pay taxes. Turns out to be a big fat lie. They pass the cost on to us. Companies like, look, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank, Southwest Airlines, and others, American Airlines, Fifth Third Bank, even Comcast, the parent company of Conspiracy TV, MSNBC. Wow, Because of the tax cut, they're giving their employees $1,000 bonuses and pay raises. Other companies have said they will invest now billions back into the U.S. economy, build factories and manufacturing centers, and hire new employees. Not to mention, you, the American people, will soon start to see money in your paychecks where it belongs. It's all because of what? This tax bill that the media said was god-awful. It just shows you how clueless and how the media lies to you daily, and frankly, how much they hate President Trump. They have this Trump-hating obsession, which I told you about last night, which means that they will do and say anything to try and hurt him on a daily basis. Let me tell you how it works, because I told you all about CNN. He actually called him a demented liar. And then Conspiracy TV, NBC, has to say, no, that's not enough. He's not only demented, he's deranged and a pathological liar. And they talk to each other. What we have now is a media so corrupt, they're all a bunch of sheep, they're brain dead, they're hypnotized, and it's like watching a horror movie unfold before our eyes. Remember, only days ago, the media wanted you to believe we were on the verge of nuclear war with North Korea. Well, why is that? Because unlike his predecessors, President Trump refused to be an appeaser and capitulate to the threats of Kim Jong-un and North Korea. Watch the media's hysterical coverage as they lie to you.
President essentially daring the leader of nuclear-armed North Korea tonight to prove that his button works. This is our world now.
16 tweets today to start the new year, some of them deeply disturbing. These are the messages from a person who is not well, from a leader who is not fit for office.
Trump needs to be medicated and hospitalized at this point, or he is going to just kill all of us.
His recent tweet about North Korea and the nuclear button, the size of the nuclear button, that has raised alarm bells, not just from Democrats, but from Republicans as well.
Now, that frenzied display was 2 days ago from the media. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders slapped down the press for attacking the president. Good for her. Let's watch this.
Should Americans be concerned about the president's mental fitness, that he appears to be speaking so lightly about threats regarding the nuclear button?
I think the president and the people of this country should be concerned about the mental fitness of the leader of North Korea. He's made repeated threats. He's tested missiles time and time again for years. And this is a president who's not going to cower down and is not going to be weak and is going to make sure that he does what he's promised to do, and that's stand up and protect the American people.
Understand, 48 hours ago, your media was losing their minds and predicting, potential nuclear fallout. Well, that was, of course, until Steve Bannon's comments about the president surfaced. Then the narrative magically shifts away and changes, and the world is going to end at any minute, and then they find a new best friend. That's right. Oh, let's see, a guy they've hated forever. They have uncontrollable glee that Steve Bannon, a guy that they hate, said something about the president. It just shows you how pathetic all of these people are. Now, look at how breathlessly they are covering the Bannon story. Did they ever tell you a single thing about the economy that's good? Anything that Trump's done good? If the dog bites, the bee stings. If you're feeling sad in the media's world, it's all Donald Trump's fault. What's this?
New revelations from a soon-to-be published book are rocking the Trump administration tonight, portraying President Donald Trump as a volatile and uncontrollable force within the White House.
President Trump issued a statement like no presidential statement ever before in American history, lambasting his former campaign and White House senior strategist Steve Bannon in no uncertain terms.
Now it seems Bannon has turned on his old boss. Bannon on the record saying things implicating him in the Russia probe, and that suggests Trump's oldest son and son-in-law committed treason.
You now have Steve Bannon, the guy that they all would have had their arms around and had their thumbs up taking pictures 2 days ago. Now Steve Bannon is talking about treason.
And that bombshell book rocking the White House, Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House. It features blistering attacks on the president and his family from Steve Bannon, the strategist by Trump's side during the campaign and the early days in the White House. It has drawn a furious response from President Trump.
This is how bad it is. Look at the graphic from CNN fake news Jake Tapper and what he used earlier today to talk about the new Michael Wolff book. Mental fitness? Really? Now, in a way, I feel sorry for fake news Jake. He has to take his marching orders from his Trump-hating, soon-to-be scandal-plagued boss, Jeff Zucker, who's best friends with Matt Lauer. The media could barely control themselves over the Bannon story, and you can bet they will drag this out as long as possible until the next crisis they create comes along. And if it's nuclear war coming, 2 days later, they'll forget about it. Here's the thing when it comes to the media in this country. Their biased, abusive attacks against this president are unprecedented. But you know what? In a way, they've always shown their liberal bias. The media has been an extension of the Democratic Party for decades. Here's the proof. They have a long history of breathless, hysterical reporting, but only when conservatives or Republicans are occupying the White House. The media's also bent over backwards to praise the presidents they so love, adore, and worship, like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. People that appease murdering dictators and despots. Now, let's start with President Ronald Reagan. This is where our history lesson begins tonight. Back in 1984, you might remember, it was a microphone check. He was doing a weekly radio address that, he's going to destroy Russia with nukes. He was joking. Keep in mind, this was never in the actual real speech. Listen to this.
My fellow Americans, I'm pleased to tell you today that I've signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes.
Okay. Of course, the audio was released. The media tried to make it into a huge, massive international crisis, even though it was a joke. Take a look back then how NBC News reacted.
It was the joke heard around the world, the one by President Reagan about bombing the Soviet Union, and it resulted in a Soviet red alert, and it became a campaign issue in this country.
By August 14th, the story became world news, a major item on Moscow television where the joke was not treated as a laughing matter.
And look at this headline from the New York Times, Reagan's gaffe. And it only gets worse from there. The media couldn't stand the fact Ronald Reagan ended up by being strong, defeating the Soviet Union, and he didn't fire a single shot. And that started when Ronald Reagan called the communist regime what it really was, an evil empire. Take a look.
They preach the supremacy of the state, declare its omnipotence over individual man, and predict its eventual domination of all peoples on the earth. They are the focus of evil in the modern world. So in your discussions of the nuclear freeze proposals, I urge you to beware the temptation of pride, the temptation of blithely declaring yourselves above it all and label both sides equally at fault, to ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire, to simply call the arms race a giant misunderstanding, and thereby remove yourself from the struggle between right and wrong and good and evil.
Oh, he didn't give them billions of dollars. President Reagan was confronting evil in his time. But then it was way too much for the media, the liberal media, to handle, since they prefer the policies of, let's see, bowing and kissing rings and appeasement. Here's a quote from the New York Times describing Reagan's speech, quote, "In the long run, however, the greater danger lies in Mr. Reagan's vision of the superpower relationship as good versus evil and his near proclamation of holy war against an evil empire." Well, it turns out the so-called paper of record, just like the rest of the liberal media, was completely wrong. If Reagan followed the media's advice, the Soviet Union, who knows, might still be standing. Next, remember George W. Bush. He labeled, rightly so, Iran, Iraq, and North Korea the axis of evil. You may remember this.
North Korea is a regime arming with missiles and weapons of mass destruction while starving its citizens. Iran aggressively pursues these weapons and exports terror, while an unelected few repress the Iranian people's hope for freedom. Iraq continues to flaunt its hostility toward America and to support terror. The Iraqi regime has plotted to develop anthrax and nerve gas and nuclear weapons for over a decade. States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world.
How do you describe in the last century alone, let's see, over 100 million human souls destroyed? Is that not evil? Here are some of the headlines after George W. Bush's speech immediately thereafter. Response to terror has Bush overstated North Korean threat? Question mark. Allies hear sour note and axis of evil chorus. And even years later, the media is still attacking Bush's speech. Take a look at these examples from the Media Research Center.
Up until that moment, Iran was cooperating with the United States on the border of Afghanistan. It was post 9/11. Iran was more or less an American ally. By being included in the axis of evil, it turned the Iranian government in a completely different direction. It was a turning point in American politics and in foreign policy.
When Kim's father, Kim Il-sung, feared the U.S. would use nuclear weapons against his country. That historic fear was reinforced 50 years later when the U.S. labeled North Korea part of an axis of evil with Iran and Iraq. Kim Jong-il feared he would always be next after Iraq.
The media eviscerated President Bush, but he was right. Now just take a look at Iran and North Korea today. Bush was able to see back then that they needed to be confronted head on. And as for the media, well, they can't stand the kind of tough and direct acknowledgement that America does have enemies, that there is evil in our time. And apparently they would rather their presidents bending down and kissing the rings and bowing and kissing the feet of murdering dictators. Let's go back to the early 1990s. Bill Clinton sucked up groveling to Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, and giving North Korea billions in energy subsidies, allowing North Korea to keep their nuclear fuel rods, and then goes on TV and tells you this is a great deal for the American people. What a lie that was. Take a look.
This is a good deal for the United States. North Korea will freeze and then dismantle its nuclear program. South Korea and our other allies will be better protected. The entire world will be safer as we slow the spread of nuclear weapons. South Korea, with support from Japan and other nations, will bear most of the cost of providing North Korea with fuel to make up for the nuclear energy it is losing. And they will pay for an alternative power system for North Korea that will allow them to produce electricity while making it much harder for them to produce nuclear weapons. The United States and international inspectors will carefully monitor North Korea to make sure it keeps its commitments. Only as it does so will North Korea fully join the community of nations.
Today we know his bribery or attempted bribery of dictatorship failed. Now, despite the obvious flaws back then with the deal with North Korea, the media praised Bill Clinton's efforts. They loved him. Watch this.
Deal that could end the long-running crisis with North Korea over nuclear weapons. It could also ease tensions on the Korean Peninsula and open the way for normal relations between the U.S. and one of the world's last old-line, hard-line communist states.
Beyond the details, North Korea seems to have made a fundamental decision that the Cold War is really over.
Crucial inspections are being delayed 5 years while the rest of the deal is implemented. American officials say the delay is a small price to pay for getting North Korea to shut down its entire nuclear program.
You know, you would think the media would learn from history, learn the lessons of history, but they didn't, because they're all a bunch of brain-dead sheep with an agenda. Back in 2015, just like President Clinton, we had President Obama proudly announcing a nuclear deal, $150 billion to the mullahs of Iran, threatening to blow us and wipe us off the face of the earth along with Israel. Watch this.
Today, after 2 years of negotiations, the United States, together with our international partners, has achieved something that decades of animosity has not. A comprehensive long-term deal with Iran that will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon. This deal demonstrates that American diplomacy can bring about real and meaningful change. Change that makes our country and the world safer and more secure. This deal is also in line with a tradition of American leadership.
Total BS, total stupidity. And what Obama forgot to mention, he gave the radical mullahs that are saying and chanting death to America and Iran, he gave them $150 billion of your dollars, plane loads of cash and other currencies. And Tehran, they're still allowed to keep and spin their centrifuges, which puts them on the path towards building a nuclear weapon once the deal runs out, just like North Korea. The media, they didn't care about any of this. They were quick to heap praise on Obama, the Peace Prize winner.
The U.S. and world powers reaching a major agreement with Iran, blocking one of our biggest rivals from developing a nuclear weapon.
The president is about to deliver a statement on this historic nuclear deal reached with Iran overnight. This agreement is supposed to freeze that country's pursuit of a nuclear weapon.
Has the U.S. and its allies successfully blocked Iran from making a nuclear bomb, at least for now?
But tonight, the United States could be entering a new era in its relationship with Iran.
I think it begins to change the dynamics of a tense relationship of 36 years between Washington and Tehran. I think the deal provides more than the United States anticipated, and I think it could help prevent an arms race in the region that would be detrimental to not just the Middle East, but to the whole world.
That's tonight's Hannity history lesson. It personifies your media in this country for who they are. They are afraid of strong leaders that dare to confront evil in our time. They are people that love capitulation and appeasement, even though it fails every single time. If you really want to know how the media wants a president to behave on the world stage, then take a look at this picture. Take a look right there. Oh, yeah. So what does our history lesson prove? The media has been and will continue to be mindless, liberal, left-wing, radical ideologues that no longer report the truth. They might only like President Trump if he sucked up to what? Radical mullahs in Iran and kissed Kim Jong-un's ring? Is that what and give them billions? Guess what? That's not something this president will do. We have big breaking news tonight from the Hill's John Solomon. Our top story, the FBI has launched a new investigation into the Clinton Foundation. This is something we have been calling for on this show. We have Sebastian Gorka, Geraldo Rivera with reactions. Stay with us. Busy night. This is a Fox News alert. It is not a good night for the Clintons. The Hill's John Solomon reporting tonight a new investigation into the Clinton Foundation has been opened by the FBI. Now, according to the report, investigators will be looking for any possible wrongdoing surrounding pay-to-play or other illegal activity while Hillary Clinton was serving as your Secretary of State. Also tonight, the Daily Beast reporting the DOJ is looking into Hillary Clinton's email server. John Solomon and Sarah Carter will join us in a minute. Here with reaction to the shocking news, as well as tonight's opening monologue, is the former deputy assistant to the president, Fox News contributor Sebastian Gorka, and Fox News correspondent at large, apparently co-host of The Five now, Geraldo Rivera. I've been watching you all week. This is huge news. They're now looking into the Clinton Foundation, and it's now confirmed. They now are clearly also now looking into the email server scandal, which we now know Comey basically rigged with Peter Strzok because they wrote an exoneration months before the investigation.
I think in terms of the email scandal, there is no doubt but that the fix was in. It is also an archaic scandal, and if we go back there again, the eyes of the public will roll into the back of their head and say, oh no, what's next, Benghazi?
Geraldo, wait a minute. Were laws broken in your view as an attorney?
They very well may have been.
Felonies.
They may have been, but I don't know what crime it would be. You need intent to violate those,
wait a minute.
secrecy acts.
If you set up a private server in a mom and pop shop bathroom closet, wait a minute. You put top secret, classified, special access program. Whoa, and then you destroy it, delete it, bleach fit it, acid wash it.
The reason the other aspect of this, the pay-for-play Clinton Foundation aspect of this is much more intriguing is that it is new. We haven't treaded and hours and hours. Well, you more than most. Yeah. But I want to know how the Clintons became so wealthy when they never had a real job. I think that those are good questions. But if you conflate this with that email thing again,
why would we ever give up 20% of America's uranium? Robert Mueller knew the FBI had a spy inside of Putin's ring, bribery, extortion, money laundering, kickback, Sebastian. Sure. And then they still allowed CFIUS to sign off 9-0 across the board, and the money went right back to the Clinton Foundation, $150 million. Huge amounts.
We've been waiting more than a year to find out if America is still a nation of the rule of law. And now Hillary's going to find out the answer to her own question, what difference does it make? And Geraldo, I didn't know you studied law, but I'll have to tell you something. As a former federal employee, intent is utterly irrelevant when it comes to the handling of classified materials in federal law. You do not need to be giving that information to a foreign agent. If you simply misplace it, you have committed a felony. It's one of the few aspects of federal law where intent is irrelevant. And that woman had at least 108 emails at the highest classification of the federal system on her private server. That's a felony, Geraldo.
This is the way I totally disagree with the legal analysis, but let me make a much more important
It's a fact, Geraldo.
I have to make a much more important point. I care about the 45th president of the United States. I care about Donald Trump. I want his presidency to be a success. I fear that he is not touting his strengths, as Sean alluded in the opening of this program. We have an economy now that is robust, that is booming, that is including everybody from the wealthy to the person, the urban person.
So Hillary gets a pass.
I want to tout that success.
Black unemployment, 7-year low.
I want to tout that success. I want to scream that from the rooftops. That positive message is what the American people are yearning to hear, not Hillary Clinton emails.
What about equal justice?
What do I care about Hillary Clinton?
Equal justice under the law? Sebastian.
What is the statue of Lady Justice blindfolded for a reason, Geraldo? All Americans should be equal before the law, whether your last name is Rivera or whether your last name is Clinton. This woman has committed felonies. It goes without saying. The fact that more than 50%...
It does not go without saying. You cannot make a statement like that because you're a smart man. You cannot make a statement like that.
The director of the FBI said she had 108 classified emails on her private server. That's a felony, Geraldo.
And then in the last 2-3 years, why hasn't there been any meaningful...
That's the question.
It's
That's the question.
Hold on a second. Wait, hang on a second.
Donald Trump to be dragged back into that crap again?
It's not Donald Trump. He has no say in this. Why? And I ask you this. Why would Comey and Strzok, a Trump hater, be writing an exoneration months before they ever even interviewed the main people involved?
With dozens of hostile eyes on Hillary Clinton's private email server, there has not been one scintilla of proof that any leak happened to a hostile party.
Wait a minute. Our own Brett Baer, 99% certainty, 5 foreign agencies had access to that. Next question. So you're telling me it's not obstruction of justice. If I have subpoenaed emails, 33,000 I delete. Hang on. Then I acid wash and bleach bit the hard drive. And then, just to make sure, I take the BlackBerries and I smash them with a hammer. You're not telling me that's not intentional obstruction of justice?
I am telling you that even as you recited that with your eloquence, my eyes rolled wide. Because I don't care about Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's not going to run for office again.
You care about equal justice.
I care about the president succeeding and uniting the country and moving forward together. We have big issues.
All right,
big fish.
Dr. Gorka.
Every American, Geraldo included, should care if federal law enforcement officers are breaking the law. When Hillary Clinton was interviewed, her co-suspect was allowed to act as her counsel, and the FBI, not Hillary, the FBI destroyed the laptops that were central to that investigation. Geraldo, you should care about that because that means we've got bent
I care about
cops.
The future, not the past. Dr. Gorka, I care about the president
what if a crime was committed against your daughter 10 years ago? Would you care about that person?
If you show me one victim from that whole email baloney,
America's national security.
America.
Foreign agents picked up on it, Geraldo.
Like what? Where?
Intelligence.
Like a CIA document that says that? I don't.
Oh, boy. All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Now, when we come back, we will go into tonight's huge breaking news. John Solomon, who broke it, is here exclusively with Sarah Carter. That's next. Stay with us.
Interviewed a witness who had information about pay-to-play allegations against the foundation, and senior law enforcement officials told me, multiple officials told me, there is an ongoing active investigation. And I remember Sarah being on this show months ago predicting that this was still open and something lurking out there that would come back, and I think she turned out to be right.
Sarah, let's go back to what you reported. I know I had my own confirmation November the 3rd. You had it before then that, in fact, the Attorney General did not recuse himself as it relates to the Uranium One scandal.
That's absolutely correct, Sean. And not only with regard to the Uranium One scandal, but all we have to do is look at what happened with the Clinton Foundation. We know that that actual investigation was never thoroughly shut down. It never officially closed. So this is very important. And there are a lot of senior FBI agents, a lot of people, not just in Little Rock, but in New York and in Florida and in other places where they have been investigating the Clinton Foundation, who are breathing a breath of fresh air right now and are really taking heart to what's going on in Little Rock, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more information coming out in the next few months.
Is it going to be that long, or has it been? How long do we think this has been going on, John or Sarah, whoever may know?
It's been going on for quite a while. Well, it's been going on for quite a while, for years, actually. I think what happened was that it was stymied. You know, there were so many people insulating the Clintons and insulating under the Obama administration that these agents felt they couldn't move forward. And some of them were actually threatened. So I think
And we now have the witness. We have Victoria Tunsing's client. And
correct.
He was able to infiltrate and discover that Putin's network was involved in all sorts of crimes. Robert Mueller, of all people, knew all about it. CFIUS still went forward 18 months later, knowing bribery, kickbacks, extortion, money laundering had taken place. John, you're also reporting Comey's original Clinton memo released 9 separate versions?
Well, there were 5 separate instances in the original memo where he used the term gross negligence, which is the felony standard for mishandling it, and all of those were edited out. And there was something that goes to the spirited debate you just had with Dr. Gorka and Mr. Rivera. In the original memo, Comey wrote that there was pretty clear and convincing evidence that realistic likelihood that her server really had been penetrated by foreign powers, but that got edited out too. It's amazing what got edited out. If you read the original version and what was eventually released, it seems like 2 different documents.
So you're saying that Comey believed that Clinton's server in the mom and pop bathroom closet had been infiltrated with top secret special access program classified information, and foreign agencies got a hold of it.
He said it was reasonably likely that had happened, and that's something that we didn't hear in the press conference, right? So these edits are more significant. They're more substantive than I think we knew, and I think there's a lot of questions on Capitol Hill tonight about why would Comey allow these edits to happen?
And why did he write the exoneration months before the investigation, which is part of it? Let's go to the Daily Beast. Sarah, I'll ask you that the Department of Justice is also reopened now that we know that the exoneration, which John's reporting about, and the original copies now are out. Now that they are reporting, Department of Justice also has opened that investigation into the server again. And I agree with Dr. Gorka. It's about the rule of law. What do you know?
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think that's very important. It is about the rule of law. And I think what we're seeing is numerous investigations. This is what was promised by the Department of Justice. Remember, months ago, everybody was concerned, but they weren't talking about it publicly. And I think now what we're seeing is a trickling out of all of these investigations, Sean, which are going to be ongoing throughout the year. And I want to go back to something that John just said. You know, this is a reason why intent was not important. When you think about Comey and intent and gross negligence and all these words and extremely careless, the fact that foreign agents, foreign states may have more than likely penetrated Hillary Clinton's email server is the reason why gross negligence is the law, because we don't want people getting our classified information, particularly foreign states, and that's why it's so extremely important. But the fact that she wasn't held to the same standards as Christian Saucier and others is something that we have to question, and something that needs to be...
He took the 6 pictures within the submarine, year in jail, away from his wife, kids, all of that happened. That's such a good analogy, isn't it?
Yeah, and lost everything, lost all of his benefits, and he admitted to it. He lost it all.
I hope the president pardons him. I really hope the president pardons, especially if we have. Okay, so if the Justice Department if we now are confirming all of this, John, and it's been going on a long period of time, they're not going to comment publicly on it, are they? So it's not only because of both of you, and you both really deserve so much credit here, because you really have been out on a limb, and you've been proven right time after time, while the rest of the media has ignored it. But if the Justice Department is doing this, and they had all that foundation, I got to believe it's coming soon, John.
Yeah, I think the thing you have to watch for, if this is going to get really serious, we're going to see a grand jury impaneled, and grand jury subpoenas
we know
will
if
come
one
out.
might have been impaneled already?
No evidence of it yet. I think they're really at that first stage of just talking to witnesses. But if we get to a grand jury and panel on either case, email or the foundation, I think you know that there's some serious business ahead.
Last word, Sarah.
I agree with John, and I see that coming in the near future.
Wow. Thank you both for being with us. You guys have been phenomenal. We appreciate it. We'll keep our audience up to date. 2018, the year of the boomerang. Stay with us. The media won't cover it. We will. Tommy Lahren, Jessica Tarlov next. Including a bombshell report from The Hill revealing that the FBI is opening a new investigation into the Clinton Foundation, and also breaking. The Daily Beast reporting the Department of Justice has taken a fresh look at Hillary Clinton's private email server scandal. And according to the report, DOJ officials now are interested in finding out how much classified information was in fact sent over Clinton's server, who put that information into an unclassified environment, and how. They're also reporting they want to know which investigators knew about these matters and when did they know it. And in light of today's report, former senior advisor to Clinton, Felipe Reines, wrote on Twitter, quote, "This is definitely a political persecution." Really? Here with reaction, Fox News contributors Tommy Lahren, Jessica Tarlov. Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy New Year.
Okay, now here it is. You have to admit, James Comey, months before even investigating the email server scandal, is writing the exoneration. Now, and he had a special category for Hillary. It wasn't done by the field officers of the FBI. Now that they're opening investigations into both of this, can you just admit you can't write an exoneration before the investigation?
No, I can't admit that. What I can admit that what he did, according to several,
you can have the exoneration and then do the investigation later.
What several officials have said, that it was normal practice to begin drafting what you thought the outcome would be. I completely take your argument, but there are a number of people.
You completely take my argument and then dismiss it.
No, I'm just saying it's not what I think about it. It's not what a number of people who have defended James Comey's decision say about this either.
And then he's doing it with a guy that calls Trump. He's doing it with a guy that calls Trump loathsome.
Yeah,
and loves Hillary.
That guy, but no, that guy was a Kasich supporter in the first place. That's who he wanted.
Excuse me. He's on text with his little girlfriend saying, la, 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 la.
Yeah, but he was also on text with his girlfriend saying, la, 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 I like John Kasich.
All right, la, 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 la. Let's bring in Tommy Lahren. Tommy, your thoughts?
I'm just wondering, Jessica, when will we hear from Hillary in all of this? I mean, she seems to like to talk quite a bit, usually in an anti-Trump fashion, but we've got all this coming out about Hillary. I'd like to see her step up to the plate and own it.
Anything come out about Hillary. These are reopening investigations that have been settled. This is because Jeff Sessions is scared of Donald Trump, because he goes on Twitter and he says, lock her up again. He says, my DOJ is supposed to be doing this. This is pressure,
Jessica,
not because.
Do you think that it's important?
If Jeff Sessions was afraid he would have resigned.
Do you think that it's important that we investigate this? Does she think this is what I want to know from Democrats? Do you think it's important that we investigate matters of national security? Do you think that that's an important step to be taken?
100%. That's why we did it already. I'm also curious. Then, what do you think about Jared Kushner's use of private email? How do you feel about that and other White House officials?
Private email? Are we talking about
a private server in someone's family private server?
Secretary of State,
Stop for a second. We know in the Clinton case that secret, top secret, classified, special access program information, it was all there. And that foreign agents, it was in the Comey draft, had likely gotten it.
Not confirmed.
She put it in a mom and pop shop bathroom closet.
I have heard a lot about the bathroom. The bathroom seems inadvisable. The whole
inadvisable.
That was a little New Year humor.
New Year's humor.
You just don't get my jokes this year.
No, apparently not.
No. Anyway, everyone knows the server was a mistake. Hillary Clinton knows the server was a mistake. Bill Clinton knows the server was a mistake.
It wasn't a mistake. It was a felony. No. Mishandling of classified information, destroying classified information is a felony. And when you bleach bit it and you acid wash it and you bust up the hammers and you delete it, that's called obstruction.
So Jim Comey just did this because he wanted Hillary Clinton to win. And
Jim Comey wanted her to win. Exactly.
And then what about the letter that came out right before the election that we all agreed? I know Judge Pierre was certainly saying
he had no choice. Tommy, at that point, there was no choice.
But to bring up something that was completely irrelevant to the
you know what the
investigation.
nice part about it is, Jessica? Despite all of this, despite all the people that wanted to see Hillary win, I'm excited because the American people were too smart for it. So I put that a win in our column. Yes, we're still going to talk about it because it's a matter of national security. I want to see Hillary come out, and I want to see her fess up. I want to see the Democrats come out, and I want to see them
Every
fess
week
up.
you tell me you're done seeing her. She's spoken about this. It was a mistake. She has been exonerated. I would love to know what you think about Jared Kushner and White House officials using private
Don't
email.
fall into her diversion, Tommy.
What?
I have another question.
Fall right in. It's not even a diversion. It's completely legitimate.
All right,
Don't use private email.
That was
Thank
very
you.
good.
And
Here's what I want to know. America doesn't have enough uranium. Uranium is the foundational material for nuclear weapons. Now, why would Hillary, Eric Holder, knowing, Robert Mueller knew that Putin wanted to get a foothold in the uranium industry in America. Why? And he had his thugs in this country bribing, extorting, money laundering, racketeering, the whole bit, and kickbacks. Why would anybody ever sign off on giving a foreign entity control of uranium when we don't have enough uranium? On the surface, does that make any sense to you at all?
It doesn't, but what I understand from this...
slow down. It doesn't.
It doesn't if that's what happened, but we didn't transfer uranium out of the country. And Hillary Clinton did not sign off on it.
It went to Europe, and we believe it went to Asia.
We believe it went
We know it went to Canada.
So if it went to allies, because I believe Europe and Canada are our allies, that's one thing. If you're saying it went into Putin's pocket, that's a different thing.
But we have a shortage, Tommy, of uranium. We need more of it, not less of it.
This is because we're resource scarce. Hillary Clinton didn't even sign off on
Actually, on uranium, we are. She did sign off on it. That's a lie.
The State Department did.
We know what Hillary did as Secretary of State, Jessica. We know it. There's so many smoking elements here, and the Democrats continue to play it off. Well, we don't know. We don't know. You guys know nothing about this whole apparent Russia collusion either, but you still bring it up every sentence. We know that Hillary deleted 33,000 emails. We know about Uranium One, but yet you're still going to go back and talk about Jared Kushner, which is a whole lot of nothing burger because you can't fess up.
Why do you get to decide that, but this isn't? We haven't had a thorough investigation, and that you probably want a second special counsel to look into the
deleted
Mueller
emails.
probe.
That sure doesn't sound innocent to me.
Well, I'm
Whoopsies,
sorry, I didn't
deleted
hear you. I was
33,000
yelling.
incriminating emails. Whoopsie.
The
Whoopsie.
incriminating emails?
Why would someone, as Sean mentioned, why would someone delete 33,000 emails and bleach bit a server, a private server that they had in a basement?
Subpoenaed.
Why would they do that if there was nothing suspect?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, she says they were her private emails, and I know there's probably more in there beyond yoga.
About yoga, a funeral, and a wedding, 33,000? Really? You buy that? And she emailed
send
Bill.
a lot of emails
and she said she
personally,
also
but-
emailed Bill, but Bill doesn't have an account.
No, well, Bill Clinton doesn't personally email, but his staff does email.
Oh, she said Bill.
Well, I think she's referring
You
to his
think-
staff.
you
She must
think
know that her
she's
own
referring-
husband doesn't send emails.
So she was asked, did you wipe the server clean with a cloth?
Yeah, it's not a funny joke. She's not a funny woman. It doesn't mean she's a criminal.
Laws were broken.
No, it absolutely does. She is still a criminal, and
Game
she's
on.
not funny.
The boomerang begins when we come back. Our video of the day, the Hate Hannity hotline, and Stephen Colbert made me laugh. I'll tell you why. Straight ahead. Usually find this professional Trump-hating Obama sycophant funny, but Stephen Colbert actually made me laugh. He tweeted out this ad begging to be considered for the Dishonest and Corrupt Media Awards, which will be announced by President Trump next Monday. Now, we're going to have our own awards tomorrow. Now, according to the poster, Colbert, he's gunning for the fakest dishonesty award. He may just get it. I still hate the show. Good luck, Stephen. All right, now it's time to play some of the messages you left for me on the Hannity hotline. Some of you don't particularly like me. Watch this.
You know what's so pathetic about you, Hannity? It's not about country. It's about your ratings and about a party. How pathetic. And the fact that you are supporting such a piece of makes you so transparent. It's unbelievable, Hannity. I wish you knew how the rest of the world felt about you. You are a dude, you need to go put some paint on your face and look like a clown, because that's what you sound like. You want to talk about fake news. I don't give a about news, but this is nothing but propaganda.
I'm sitting here watching you talk about how the news is demented and crazy. I wish you could sit here and look at yourself, how crazy you're acting. You're hilarious. You're about to cry or maybe making fun of your president. Oh, your president's an idiot. You better face it, or he gets all of us killed.
What's up with those evil laughs? By the way, to all of you, thank you for watching. And if you want to unleash on me, feel free. Get it off your chest, no matter how mean. We don't care. 877-225-8587. Remember, we will never be the fake news, destroy Trump media. We're fair and balanced. Thanks for being with us. Let not your heart be troubled. The news continues. I'm giving her 5 extra seconds.